Welcome, everyone. Such a great pleasure to be here with you today for another Growth Hackers Roundtable. I'm here today with two great content professionals, Carolina and Zachary. I want to introduce in a minute. Let me just cover a little bit of what we're talking about. So we're here for Growth Hackers Roundtable on content operations for media companies. This is a topic that for us for a couple of years has been super exciting to talk about. We usually talk about content for companies that have content as part of their marketing operations, their online marketing strategy, digital strategy. And when we started talking with our teams operating content in media companies, we see that not only these marketing teams were being inspired by media companies and journalists and all of the great media out there and the operations for media out there. But it was definitely reciprocated. So right now we have many media companies also being inspired by great content operations that are being run by marketing teams. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about how these experiences are right now being replicated between marketing and media companies, and how some companies use content as an acquisition strategy and others actually have content being their product. And we think that's a lot different, but maybe it's not that different. We'll find out together today. And to discuss that, I have two great panelists here with me. One of them is Carolina Marasco. Carolina is a performance and distribution leader at NSC. NSC is a great media company in Latin America. They have millions of viewers. They have content being distributed in both broadcast TV, online, radio, so many channels. And we also have here with us Zachary Mcgowan. Zachary is now a senior content strategy at AT&T, and we know how huge AT&T is when we talk about media and so many channels for content creation. And Zachary is also a creative consultant with over 6 years of professional experience crafting this digital messaging for many global brands. So we want to talk to both of you and welcome you here to another Growth Hackers Roundtable. Welcome, Zachary. Welcome, Carolina.
Hey,
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to actually ask you a little bit more and we're live streaming these, folks. I see that some questions are, is this recorded? No, it's completely live stream. We're live streaming for YouTube, through YouTube and also LinkedIn. And Carolina, I would like for you to introduce yourself, talk a little bit more about you, your background, as well as your content operation. How does it look like today? And after that, I would like to ask the same question to Zachary. So you can go ahead, Carol.
Hi, guys. I am a journalist here in Brazil, so my English is not so good as my colleagues here, but I am still learning. So if you have some doubts, we can talk about later, but I will try.
Now I am great, no problem.
Now I am like you said, I am a distribution and performance leader here. So actually my team have a lot of challenges, and my routine includes basically supplying my social networks and my business, and we send newsletters, podcasts, YouTube videos. We have a content strategy on SEO on Google and on other terms. So basically is this.
Great. Welcome again, Carol. We really want to talk a little bit more about the operations for your team with so many channels going on. Zachary, so talk to us a little bit more about what you do right now, being a senior content manager, and all of the possibilities and things that you have done before. We are always curious about that as well. So what you can bring about your background and what you do today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me. I'm Zachary Mcgowan. I'm currently working and living in Atlanta, Georgia, as a senior content strategist for AT&T. My background mostly, I went to school for journalism, advertising, and was really interested in account management. So just kind of more of the operations side of making sure creative got done. And slowly fell into social media strategy. So building out campaigns online for the Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Snapchat when it first came around. Just all of those platforms, just really trying to figure out how to kind of push the limit for whatever client or company that I was currently working for. So my experience goes from technology. I found my way back to AT&T, but in technology, nonprofit, media entertainment, music entertainment. So it's been really an enjoyable ride, and I'm always interested in learning new things as it relates to this growing field in content strategy, content operations, because content is so huge now. So it's a fun industry to be in, and I look forward to speaking more about that today.
Yeah, we don't have one day similar to the next one. Every day a surprise for sure. Content is a very exciting market to be in. And I think the main question that we've received from our audience prior to this live stream is that what are the key differences between having a content as an acquisition strategy versus having content as your main product? I would like to start with you, Zachary. Working with large brands and working now with a media company, what are the main differences that you see between these two types of operations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for those who aren't or weren't familiar, I think back in 2017, maybe early 2018, AT&T actually bought Warner Media. This is one of the the hugest media acquisitions by a non-media company that happened. I think definitely nationally. I don't have the research as far as like globally, but it made a lot of splash in the news because this was really going to be an opportunity for to attract a new customer base, to be a lot more creative, and really to kind of keep people in an ecosystem. So that was that's a primary example of a content acquisition example that happened recently, and something I've been a part of. And I think that the key differences between it being content as a product, content as an acquisition. I think that the acquisition side is definitely more strategy based. Obviously, you want to get something cool that somebody else is doing to grow your brand, grow your business, generate more revenue. And then as a product, I think you have I think it's more creative centric. I think that you look at brands or other media, brands like Tastemade, who it's all original content, right? And that is what people, go and enjoy and consume and continue to engage with. So I definitely think that, acquisitions is more from a business standpoint, where you might not have as much creative control because things are already working in the way that they were already working. Whereas, as a product, there's a lot of flexibility. And as we see even, today with, Instagram creators getting paid money to who has the best reel, that's where your creative genius is going to come out, and ideally it keeps you profitable, but it also encourages other people to create really amazing content as well.
Yeah, I definitely concur. I think the crossover right now is making things so much different and interesting. I remember 10 years from now when brands used to relate to larger teams in media companies and teams of journalists and say, oh, let's do as they do. Let's treat our content as they treat their content. Let's treat our audience like they treat their audience. And now, Carol, I want to know from you, do you think broadcast media teams are also relating to marketing teams in big brands and seeing how they do it and trying to also learn from them? Are things now
Yes.
a little bit more mixed?
Yes, definitely. Right now we have a lot of challenge, but we need to learn with marketing, and the marketing learn with us right now. And our business talking about the product like the content like a product, we have a challenge to do this, and the biggest challenge for us right now is how we can make money with something that is not marketable, because sometimes journalists and information don't as a product, you can sell the information. So this is the point that we can make some things without marketing, and add value in journalism with another products, I think this is the most thing that we can learn with marketing right now.
That's actually another question that we received from our audience prior to this roundtable. People want to know how to entice free users, visitors on your website, people that go to your website to learn more about a certain subject. Let's say there's a new topic being talked about, either from sports or politics. I don't know how to make that first interest turn into revenue. How do you turn free users into paid customers if you're a media company? What are the main key strategies there that you're using right now? Mm-hmm. And Zachary, I want to know about you as well. What are you seeing in the market that is actually working? And we know there's a lot of ethics to be discussed about this topic as well. It's not an easy topic to discuss, but what are the practices that you're using that are working, or you're seeing other media companies use that you think they are being successful with?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
You can talk.
Okay. I think when I just thought about that question and just kind of marketplace examples, a few things popped in my mind as far as like what would convert somebody from something free to I want to pay for this, and I think that really starts with what it does or how it makes the person feel. You look at platforms like an HBO Max, where there's so much content that you really feel like you're never going to be able to keep up, but it's a discussion, and it's an engagement online, maybe on Twitter, or maybe it's in the coffee shop, like what's going on. So I think a few points that came to mind as far as like an actual way to entice free users to pay for content is you want to be able to add value, so maybe a free trial. You see these like in Netflix, you see this Hulu, the 7, the 10, the 14-day free trial, just to give them a taste of, okay, this is what our platform offers, and if it brings you joy afterwards, then yeah, we want you to stay with us. The other thing I thought about was exclusive content, right? Particularly another example with HBO Max, they didn't offer a free trial. They didn't offer free trials when they launched, right? It's like you're all in, but guess what? This content, we have movies that are, and again, because of COVID, we weren't able to go to the movie theater. So our homes became the movie theaters, and that's exclusive content that, I am going to pay a little bit more for, because I want to keep up with that conversation. I want to see the latest film or like the latest television show, and I want to keep, engaged and be able to be a part of that conversation. And I think last but not least, fear of missing out. Like, I don't know about, any of you, like, but, imagine, not knowing, or maybe somebody spoils, the next episode of a favorite show that, you're maybe an episode behind on, to stay in that conversation with your friends, your colleagues. You would want to, make sure I have access to that content as well. So just the 3 things that came to my mind on how to convert.
And that's And in that sense, the crossover between marketing and industries is even more out there. If you think about fictional content, as you were mentioning, and we talk about, let's say, enterprise software, we're mentioning similar free-to-paid channels, right? So you can definitely dig into other experiences and bring from that. We're talking about subscribers in the end of the day. So either for a software or content, it could work, and it does work very in a similar way. And Carol, if we're talking about local news, do you think what Zachary brought about keeping up with the conversation, that for sure works with sitcoms or that latest movie that came out, or maybe I mean, the drama that everyone is talking about is being awarded. But if we talk about local news, does that also count? We can use the same strategies, or is there something different there?
I think it's really, really similar because we need make content essential for a life of the people. We need making content. The exclusive content is really important for us because that news they only can have in my website and my media company. So this is really important when you talk about the journalism. And here we think so much in making people pay for things other than content. The people pay with exclusive reports, unique analysis. This is what we can what people can pay, and we can talk about paying, because journalism and the news, we make the journalists for everyone, and it's hard when you want to the people pay for the journalism. So we add value in another products. I think it's really similar.
Content that is more thoughtful, or the maybe you have more investigations on that certain piece, or more. I love the example that you gave on the reports and the deeper analysis. I think that's definitely something we're seeing with media companies all over the globe, people delivering special reports on your email at a certain cost. You can have like a sneak peek if you don't pay, but if you want to see all the graphs and everything, you need to pay for that, definitely. And it is a product that you have to invest some time from your team, time from your economists, your analysts, and people to create that product. So why not pay? I think people see that value indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried, we value the importance of the community paying for content as a way to encourage responsible and accurate work by the journalism, and even more today because we fight for fake news and all these things. So we need to do this. We need to say, pay for us, because here you have the information that is true. That is
accuracy is everything in 2020, 2021. I mean, we saw that firsthand, how brutal it can be if you don't have the correct information when you need it, right? And how bad it can be for individuals and for the country, for the globe, if you have fake news going around. I definitely agree. People are also curious about how do you track these metrics. You're talking about free users to paid users, but how do you track that? Revenue metrics, how do you optimize these numbers for growth if you have content being the main product? Is it the same as other marketing teams do, or is it different? What are the main KPIs you're looking at? I want to listen to Zachary first, and then Carol, you can come back and share a little bit with us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that definitely there are tons of revenue tracking tools that are specific to different industries. I think that when we talk about media and particularly things everything is being streamed now. You look at even news outlets that are reporting the facts, but even something like let's say a Hulu or maybe YouTube TV, whatever streaming platform, is like they have advertisers that have paid a lot of money to be seen at very specific times and at all specific times by a specific group of people in a specific place. And it's all supposed to kind of correlate back to, hey, we want this to translate like in some type of sales for our company, right? So we're using your platform, as the foundation to try to to make our business better. So I definitely think that I can't really speak to like one specific tool, but I mean I think that in the past definitely just looking at things from a digital side of things, just you're looking at if you're putting money into an SEO campaign, how many clicks you're going to get. If you're putting in money into social media, okay, social media campaign, okay, are we getting the engagement? Are we getting the shares? Are we getting the saves? Or maybe if it's something more call to action based, hey, click here, download this, sign up. All of those metrics are definitely for the web, and even what we're seeing now on streaming platforms is a commercial may even have like a QR code, scan this, like it's this actionable thing that can be tracked, right? It's like I think that those metrics are closely tied to like the person watching it doing something either immediately or maybe shortly after. And I think as far as like optimization is just making sure that again your viewers and your customers like will tell you exactly what they want. So if you're tapping in and you're listening to that, you're able to make changes to how your operations work and how your future campaigns work.
That's really, really interesting what you're touching, Zachary, because we were learning a lot with these streaming teams, streaming content teams, how they are actually continuously learning with their users, how they are feeding back all of this information from the content consuming back to the growth team, back to experimentation. So they're experimenting. They have a high volume of experiments that they are running with all of this data that we as consumers, we as users, we share this information all of the time. So if you're paying attention, you're as a media company, if you're paying attention to what people are actually consuming, where do they stop? Where do they come from? Starting from there, and then how do they consume this content, and where do they stop, and how do they change these channels and from one content to the other? So do you how is this for your team, Carol? How are you doing that on a daily basis? What are the KPIs you're most looking closely to? I know that your specific challenge here is distribution, and I mean distribution right now is everywhere, literally. So I think what Zachary brought to us, so many tools right now to track everything. Is that also a problem to your team? Do you centralize everything? How do you deal with that on a daily basis?
Here in Brazil, we have an expression that I think translates a little. I became the person that I was afraid to become. So right now I have so many tools and so many metrics to talk about because I am people of journalism, so I'm not too mathematics. So right now I am a little bit mathematical person because we need to talk about everything. And we use all these metrics. Of course, we use so much Google Analytics because we see for real time everything, what you do. We send a push news, so we see, oh, this is good. The people click on my news, But I have a metric that I want to talk about is shareability, because it's the biggest metric for us, because it is really important when and memorable, I think. Then we have a good content and which is so good that someone reads or watch and wants to share with someone. So this is really important for us because this talk about what is a good content. It's a good to share content to share for someone. So this is a metric that we can look really, really close.
That's interesting. I saw that you were agreeing a lot, Zachary. Do you want to add something on that, on the shareability or KPIs that you're tracking that represent that?
Yeah. I mean, I think just on a lot of points that content is moving so fast that it's almost scary, right? It's there are technologies that can track eye movement on the television and on the web. So there's a lot of power that media companies that are focused in on the content creation, production, and operations side can utilize. But yes, I mean, the share, I think it's, I was reading some report, but like the share is like the new like, if you're, let's say on, Instagram or something, or on another platform. But again, you have to think about like that as a strategy in itself. Is like, okay, I myself found something to be so interesting that I think that my other friends who might be similarly interested in this may enjoy it, and I'm going to share it. And then it just continues to spread and spread. And to your point, like I think that is that is kind of like the newer metric of like, okay, we did a really good job with this content, because guess what? It's not just here anymore. It's way further than we thought it would be. So I totally agree.
And that's interesting to think, talking about the viral loop aspect of this shareability, and how if we track this content that really worked out, you can actually feed back to new pieces that we are creating right now. And we see media companies doing that all the time, right? Using the same formula, and using the feeding back and learning from the successes to create content the next day. What types of formulas or templates or things do you think are working right now, and things that you think, no, this is gone, this is not working anymore? Is there this type of learnings for your teams? Do you talk about that? Is that something that is discussed for you guys?
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. I mean, I think that, I mean, it's going viral. I think, a lot of people that have gone viral, they probably had like no intent, but then we just love it so much because it was just so organic, right? It's like, oh, this didn't have $1 million budget behind it. This was just somebody being themselves. So I think that definitely, one of the newer, kind of formulas or things that marketers and, people on the content production, strategy operations side is really, tapping into, very niche audiences. And making sure that, hey, we've done, maybe we have an experienced strategist on our team, so we know this community of bakers who really like making muffins, right? So we're going to make sure that, if we're promoting a food brand, or maybe if we're a food network that's specified that only shows content about baking, we're gonna do our job or our part to go and reach out to those communities and provide them with that stellar content that makes them come back. And then it just kind of all loops in. So then you have the baker brand. Okay, we want to pay, for advertising on your network because you've tapped into a community. And I think that that's, really starting to get etched out in a lot of playbooks, because I think for the longest there was this idea like, let's cast this huge net because everybody's going to like our content. And it's like, well, no. And you waste a lot of money and you waste a lot of time. But now it's about niche communities and understanding them and just catering to them. And you'll make, your money, you'll keep up high engagement, and they'll stay with you as long as you're doing right by them and you're providing them with that stellar content that's going to make them stay engaged with your brand or your company.
Wow, that's really, really interesting, Zachary, how the market has changed over time. And indeed, I see that is happening not only for media companies, but if you see products are more and more specialized. And Carol, before we go further, I would love to ask you more about collaboration. I have many questions on collaboration and operations, but since we were talking earlier on KPIs and metrics, I would like to plug in a question from Corey. Corey Buller is asking, what types of data breakdowns are you looking at to understand what works? And content type, demographic, time of day. What are you guys looking at? Maybe Carol, can you start with this one, and then we hear from Zachary as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I understand so well, but I think that Corey wants to know about the specific data that we use. So right now we use a lot of data, but one thing that is really important, that is page views per second or per hour, because this is important to know why people consume our content and when they consume. So this is really important to decide when we do news and when we do a content. I think this is the most important. And we see a lot of things, but right now I just remember this is the biggest metric for us.
Either for any content type, because I know that you guys work with videos, with online articles, all types of content really, and you're looking at like top funnel and how many people are watching or reading or online for all of those content types at all times.
This is a metric for website most, but in video and social media, we have a lot of another metrics, In video, we have, we need to know how long the people watch our video, because this is important, because we do long videos and we need to engage our audience all the time. And for social, I think we have a lot of metrics. So in Instagram we have the saved post is really something that we know, because in journalism we think, well, the people save our post, so this is important for that person. So this is the metric that we use so much in Instagram. And Facebook, we have a lot of
Instagram as well, on their algorithm to prioritize content on people's feed. If you save posts from a certain profile, it will appear for you more and more. Definitely.
Yes. So, and now,
sorry, Carol, you can finish.
And now we have a lot of, now we have the challenge to make news in Reels and Instagram. Is really hard, but we try. And this is a thing that we look so close right now, because Reels is a thing that everyone see, and we need to be there too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and that will be interesting to watch. Zachary, how about you? Data breakdowns for Corey. Do you have any ideas to share with?
Yeah, I think that so I'll kind of just talk briefly about like two sides of it. Mostly, my day-to-day is focused on the digital side. So what do those, websites, those platforms look like, and how they're functioning? And I think that a big metric or data that we take into consideration when it is overall like the customer experience, right? If you're on HBO Max, or maybe you're on the AT&T side of things, we take a lot of steps to integrate technology to understand the user flow. Was this button placed in the right direction that helped you get along this journey, right? Because when things like that stagnate, the journey, well, that could be a sale that's lost, that could be content that wasn't viewed or wasn't watched or received in the right manner. So we're really big on making sure that those flows and that everything digitally makes sense, and then also it's placed in the right right position. And I think lastly, just to, I guess, another point. So I guess another data point, also, would be the actual, it's kind of a cliche, but, but customer sentiment. Like, yes, we do care what people in our audiences are thinking, because, to points that we've all made is that, we're living in a space where content is moving so fast that we can pivot and correct or enhance that content in real time. And who doesn't want to do that to, tell a better, journalistic story, to, get that advertiser, integrated into that television show, or for our customer to have a better digital experience. So those are the data points that I particularly am using more and more now in this new role in order to create better experiences.
That's interesting how both of you have touched into more qualitative data points than we're looking more and more into quality than quantity. I think that's really telling of where we're going and what is mattering the most right now for our audiences and for people in general, really. So people also want to know, our community growth hackers, when learning about this roundtable, they're also curious about how you collaborate with your teams, and how do you actually collaborate with different stakeholders on the content planning and also the content production processes. So we know that we don't create that amazing journalistic story by ourselves. We need a lot of people involved from beginning to end, from planning to publishing and distributing. Likewise with fictional content, we know that there are lots and lots of people involved with the script and all the planning, all the production. But how do you guys, with your teams, how do you collaborate, and how do you involve people as well that are maybe not into content, the content creation process, but you need to involve them into approvals, or maybe feeding back information to them, feeding back data to them? How do you do that on a daily basis? I think Carol we can start with Carol and then go to Zachary.
Okay. I think the most challenging thing is listen priorities, because in a process with many stakeholders, we need timely action and plans to be able to meet all demands, because we can meet all demands for the people. So we'll listen priorities, and we talk about these things. I think teamwork is really important to make content and to collaborate with stakeholders.
And how about you, Zachary? What do you do to actually make sure that everyone involved is being listened to and the process is running smoothly, the workflows are working, you're not missing opportunities or deadlines?
Absolutely. I think collaboration, that is the key. And I think that it starts in making sure that everybody shares the common goal in mind. Everybody will be in their own silo or their own lane or whatnot. But again, when it's time to come together, if that's with, maybe a designer, maybe that's with a photographer, maybe that's with, a product manager, whatever the case may be, we all have to share the same common goal and make sure that, hey, I'm not just getting my part of this project or this task that or this piece of content that we're developing done, but that it's all a collective effort. But regarding the stakeholders, I'm very big on asking questions, because I feel like it may get annoying to stakeholders sometimes, but I think that understanding what the ask is initially, and if anything does change, you're keeping them informed, and you're just saying, hey, does this fit the ask? And again, you can continue to pivot and change as you need to, but I will kind of spin back around and also say, make sure when working with difficult stakeholders, just making sure that you reiterate to them, hey, this is what you asked for, and we, in order to keep my team on track, we're not gonna make it blue when you asked for red, so we're gonna do this because it's what you asked for, and you just have to adjust and kind of pivot as you go. But collaboration is amazing. I've met some of the most amazing people, colleagues and now friends, because we had to work together. So it's essential to the content development process.
Yeah, and one thing that I believe media companies have in their favor on that is that everyone is thinking about that product that is the content that you're creating. That was for me when I moved from the newsrooms to marketing teams. The big shock was content was not the big thing in those big brands. Content was a secondary thing, really important to drive attention to the main thing, the main product, the main service. But content was secondary. If we're talking about a media company, everyone is actually collaborating towards creating the best content ever. Whereas on big brands, you're actually creating the best product ever, and you need content to drive people to that product. But to get attention from stakeholders to that content being approved, that content being actually having the attention it needs to be the best you can, either on the planning side, involving everyone that have the information to bring that content to life. That was really, really challenging when we first came up with the software that became Growth Hackers workflow. And what we're seeing right now changed in media companies and newsrooms and everywhere is that everyone is distributed. So one surprise for us when we see media companies also using Growth Hackers workflow, we're like, well, why do they need workflow if their processes were made for that? Is actually they are distributed. They're everywhere. Teams are everywhere. You have freelancers, contractors, people working from all over, sometimes all over the globe. And this collaboration is also challenging with that. So on that point, do you guys think that media companies are becoming more complex with distributed teams, remote work, or not really everything is staying and working well?
I think is true when we say that we have another things to think about right now, because media companies need to, I don't know how we say in English, but create something new about the same thing, because the challenges are, the world is different. Everything is different. And right now we have journalists in home making the stories in home about the world, and we can go out to see what is happening. So we are the same troubles in media companies, I think. And right now we are thinking about the process again.
Definitely. It's always about making everything even better, right? We want to optimize the processes as well, not only run them by year or run them as they always were. There is a question on what you touched, Carol, about how life for journalists became so different out of a sudden. From Anchor here, he is asking us, journalists today have to compete with YouTubers and other social media content creators who are taking all of the attention span of the users. What can be done differently? What are you doing differently in that aspect to actually compete for that attention and win?
Yeah, we are making our content a little bit more YouTuber. I am a journalist, but right now I need to learn with these people, because these people are so big. Why I cannot learn with him? So I learn with them, and I think the format, the things that we do is a little bit different right now. We are not just journalists. We are a journalist. We are an influencer. We are YouTube. So our language is a little different right now. Our words and our teams are really different, and we need to watch all these things. We need to know the world, to talk about the world. We need to know about them. So we need to know your audience. Olivia Rodrigo is a phenomenon to here, like in the USA. So we need to know about what these people and the people they consume that things are doing. So we are always doing and making another language for be relevant to.
Yeah, it makes sense. Know your audience. Is that what you also think, Zachary? Do you have anything to add on that topic?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, again, content is moving at such a rapid rate. So, and you mentioned earlier about, this recent, this in this recent history, where there was distrust in, your traditional outlets because of, things that were kind of out of our control, right? But you had these purveyors of truth that were not maybe affiliated with, a news station or a media company, but maybe but had credentials. I'm a professor of whatever, so I can speak to this and only this, and they become those sources of truth and comfortability for you. So I definitely think that what we're seeing in media, again, kind of going back to the niche audience and those folks are that media companies and brands are looking for the everyday person who is an expert or maybe has a huge following and has influence in a very maybe specific topic, or maybe who can speak to a wide audience to bring them in, to make them to make their audience feel comfortable. And that might not come from a traditional, outlet, but it might be YouTube, it might be from Instagram, or Twitter or something. And I think that is something that all media companies should take, really begin to kind of integrate into their hiring and maybe even their workflow. Is, hey, we have a correspondent or Twitter correspondent or whatever, who has this audience. That and they can appeal to this audience and this group of people. So that was my thoughts. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing them with us. If you're tuning in right now, either from YouTube, LinkedIn, or if you're watching it, we're now live streaming the Growth Hackers Roundtable on content operations for media companies. I'm here with Carolina Marasco, Performance and Distribution Leader at NST, and also with Zachary Mcgowan from AT&T. He's a Senior Content Strategist there. And we are discussing content operation for media companies in several aspects of it. We talked about metrics, we talked about collaboration, and people are also curious about how you keep up with so much content to be created, right? We're talking about so many options. Zachary just listed so many inspirations and opportunities for content to be distributed on different social media outlets. So how do you keep up with all of these needs the audience has? And many companies will add contributors, will add influencers and freelancers as well for content creation. Do you do that? Do you recommend that? Is there other ways to create content with this high demand that we have right now? Zachary, how is your team doing, for example?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is very sometimes. I definitely believe like in work-life balance. So sometimes I just have to like shut the computer screen, turn it off, leave the phone, take a walk, because it is a little overwhelming, right? There's content being produced as we're having this live broadcast that's going to make an impact on some audience or some brand. And it is a little tasking, right? But I definitely think that, that our jobs definitely are, what's important about it, it does surround like staying in the know. So, again, I'm very, active on, Instagram, but I follow things that are very applicable to like mates, my job and things that I like. So I do follow a hashtag content strategy on Instagram and on Twitter, so that I stay in the know. So it's just best practices, but also, who are the new, practitioners of this, as it relates to, if we do need a freelancer, right? Like, hey, I can go to your website, check your portfolio out. Let's have a conversation. Let's get this considered. Or maybe if it's an independent project, right? So, the web definitely, it's more than just, it's just a marketplace for so many things. Like if you want to entertain folks, if you want to educate, inform, or maybe if you want to, it could be a job market, because you continue to put your work out there and it's going to be recognized by somebody. So, I definitely say, stay very abreast with what's going on, but also make sure you give yourself time to step back, because it could be a lot. So that's why I say, hey, sometimes I just have to shut it down, take a, step back, and then just pick it back up either the next day or in a couple minutes or so. But really good stuff out there on the web. So I'm excited for where all aspects of, content creation and recruitment are going to go, because, the landscape is changing.
Yes, and we need to know our audience, and if we can do this, we need someone to talk about these things for us. I am not a TikToker, but right now I need to know what is on in TikTok. So I don't use, but I have some people that like TikTok and talk about for me, because my content I need to consume or have someone who consumes it and report me, because I need to make part of the conversation. So I need to make these things. And sometimes I need just turn off and breathe and do it again.
Definitely, definitely. So we agree that we are using several alternatives to fill in with all of this content need and all of these demands, and doing that both with internal team and freelancers, contractors, influencers, everyone that we need when we need it, but vetting them first, as Zachary said, it's super important right now. We also have questions on tools, and I know that you have mentioned before that both of you use several different tools. Michelle here has a specific question. She asks if a media company startup doesn't have the capital to build out internal CMS, softwares or tools like the bigger ones. What are the best practice tools everyone uses? What would you do if you were building your media company right now, which seems to be the case for either Michelle or someone she's trying to help?
Oh, that's a good question. Definitely. So I'll just give like a couple of examples on tools that I believe work, particularly on the CMS side. If you're a news outlet, blog, definitely I think WordPress as a CMS tool, that's the industry leader. It's been around for years. It works. And if your startup is producing a lot of content with a lot of different categories and a lot of different readers, they are viewers. There are a lot of plugins and tools that platform WordPress does offer, so that you know how to grow. Who's coming to the site, what's working, what's not working. I think Carolina mentioned it earlier. Google Analytics. You want to know who's coming to that page. The wait time. The upload speeds, because that's a big thing now too. Is I think there was a report that I was reading on average. If you can't get your viewer to the site within like 0.002 seconds, they're going to abandon it. They're going to go and find something else, because again, all that content is moving so fast. Our attention spans are not as strong as they used to be, right? Because we have all these options. And I would say, another tool to use, more particularly from the particularly from like maybe the creative side. I'm losing it now. Just best practices is just making sure that you have a consistent consistency in your content that's being produced. You're analyzing it, and then whatever tool, because there's so many for collaboration, just to make sure that everybody's in the loop. They know what's going on, and that you're managing those products pretty effectively. So it doesn't cost a lot of money to do this from a startup perspective, but as you grow, there will be options for you to scale. As you scale, there'll be options for you to pay a little bit more to support all those efforts. So definitely a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. And don't try to create your own CMS from day one. I really think Zachary has a great way to start there, because if you kick things off without having any audience and any money, and you start by developing your own CMS, it will take you like a lot of time and a lot of the money you don't have. So yeah. Carolina, would you add any tool there? Maybe some tool for her to have an overview on the content that is being produced, if she's working with a team, that could be also useful, right?
Well, here we use SEMrush as a platform. It's really good. It's not free, but it's really good. And when you have some money, you can invest in But you have a side website that's answerthepublic.com. It's really good for content and to have ideas and to make the creative things. And we use Google Trends. Is really important to know about what people are talking about or are searching on the web. Google Trends is a really good thing, and I think that the site have so many things that it's free and you can use. It's a good thing.
Yeah, cool. Google has a whole stack of offers and products for media companies. I'll definitely dig into that to learn more, Michelle. Thank you for your question. People also want to know more about career development right now. So we have not much time in a roundtable. I know. It's so good to hear from these two pros here. I'm learning so much, but we still have some time. So I would like to know from you guys first, how, this is a loaded one, okay? But the audience asked, I have to ask to you too. So how do you see the future of media production and media content in 5 years? Carolina, would you like to start?
Well, I don't know, because right now I am so focused on mindfulness, to breathe and mindfulness and yoga things, because it's a world with so pandemic. This is hard for me, but I believe that we have in 5 years new technologies, and for this we have to be versatility. We need versatility. So I think the future is versatility, is so many things, not the things that we do today. So we need to make some new things. And for this, just the future can say.
And for you, Zachary, how do you see media companies evolving within the next 5 years? I know that content creation will be still huge. We know that this is.
Mhm.
I feel that we're just in the beginning of how things can be, and the way I imagine, for sure, many other outlets, not only the screens that we have today, but other devices, other places to consume content. But content will be there for sure. But how is this content gonna be, and how media companies will be in 5 years?
Yeah, it's a big question for sure, because it almost feels like we're as far in the future as we could go. The way technology has just made things so much more readily available. But I think a couple things that I think that content creation is gonna the production teams are going to get a lot more agile, and they're going to get a lot quicker. This, to our point of using the internet to source, the next director or the next filmmaker, for a documentary, or the next influencer for this content campaign. I think that absolutely the process is going to get a lot shorter. I think that screens are going to still always be relevant, but we're looking into how do we use voice technology to provide more news, better content, or just make it a more seamless experience, like in your day to day,
And interactions as well,
and
right?
then absolutely interactions. Yeah. And I don't know. I think that there will be an outlet for a little bit of everyone, right? So it's not like, oh, there'll be networks for like I said, the baking example. There'll be for people who like technology, or maybe like health and fitness, and it'll be very specific, and it just won't live like on the television, but it will be on different channels. And we're getting to a stage where people can develop their own streaming platforms, their own OTT platforms. So I think that there's going to be a huge uprising of folks who do have that audience, who the influence and the audience to back it up. They're going to start creating their own properties that either will be acquired by bigger companies, or they'll just continue to be independent and develop more content products. So it's very exciting. I'm here for the ride, but it's going to change here, very, very shortly. So we'll see.
Wow, who knew the TikTokers of today will be the directors and executive producers of tomorrow?
Right.
I cannot wait for that. Yeah, I like the way you paint the future, Zachary. Thank you. And last but not least, before we say goodbye, the last question is: what is the number one new skill content marketers should be learning to future-proof their careers? Wow, that's another another loaded one, but super necessary today. I think the landscape's changing. Learning how to TikTok for sure is important, but there are so many other skills that we need to learn and accomplish to future-proof. What are you both doing right now? I would like to start with you, Zachary, and then Carolina.
Yeah, that's a good. I don't know if it's just like, well, okay. So, and Carolina mentioned it. I went to school for journalism. I am not a math person at all. I can do the basics, but I would definitely say, as much as you can, it doesn't. You don't have to be a whiz kid tomorrow, but data analytics, absolutely being able to not only position yourself within your company, or if you're doing freelancing, as the person who strategizes the content, produces it, manages it, but you can also tell your client or your supervisor, whomever, hey, this is what's not working, this is what's working, this is what's made us money, because that's kind of it all is all cyclical, and it kind of boils back down to, okay, we're trying to acquire these things, to get money, or it kind of, sometimes it all deals with money. So I definitely would say data analytics for sure.
Definitely. What do you think, Carol?
I think that it is really important, and I think the skill number one, it's, I don't know, but sometimes we have good writers, we have good filmmaking, but sometimes these people and these professionals can, I think that these people can have the ability of planning, to see the whole thing and see everything that's going on. I think it's really important to be a good professional today and tomorrow, because the people need to know, right, but the people need to know strategic things and data and all these things, I think.
I love that. I love what both of you said. One thing growth hacking taught me is learning how to learn, and why learning to learn is something that actually is the number one for me, because the data that you collect, the overview that you can develop this skill to actually take a grasp of everything. If you don't take your opinions into hypotheses and put them to test, you actually will be stuck in one place. So moving this cycle in a learning, pushing innovation, collecting information, and pushing it again and again will be more and more important as we go, and as we grow as well, as media companies, as software companies, are in all industries. So thank you so much, Carolina. Thank you so much, Zachary, for being here. And every single one of you, thank you for your questions. Thank you for all of your comments here that we can see. And we will be waiting for you on the next Growth Hackers Roundtable. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.